So aside from being scared to write something, how do you know your protagonist is someone that you want to write about? You want to spend like years working with?
This has happened to me on a couple of occasions, but eventually my characters start speaking to me. They have gotten so vocal that they actually start talking with their own voices. And to me, that's almost like a state of reaching like a runner's high. It's rarely achieved when I've done it. I've done it in about 4 of my scripts, but those to me are the characters that have the strongest voices and certainly have been the pieces and the projects that have been put out into the world and have gotten me where I am and the attention that I've gotten. That's key to me, is when those voices are so clear. It's like when I'm writing dialogue, I don't even have to think about what the response would be. The character just automatically says it to me. It's a weird phenomenon, but it does happen.
Have you ever had it where the characters aren't speaking to you and then you're like, I don't think this is going to work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of being a good writer is knowing when to walk away from something. I had a book that I wrote that was 42,000 words long. It was the first book that I'd ever written, and I was shopping it around, and I found myself going to edit it and trying to figure out what to do with it and like why it wasn't working, why it wasn't resonating with people. And then I realized myself, I'm 10 pages into it and I'm bored. The character just had no voice. So I realized that was a problem. And it's important to recognize those things in your writing. You have to certainly be aware of what's working, but you also have to be self-aware enough to accept what's not working.
Do you think you were scared to give the appropriate voice to that character, or it just from the get-go, it just wasn't the right sort of combination?
I think it just wasn't. I was trying to force something. I was trying to force a narrative. And I'm not saying you shouldn't wait for inspiration to strike, because you may never get inspired. It's important to keep pushing through and keep pushing and write every day, even if it's bad. You can always go back and edit. I mean, one of the wonderful sayings, and I forget who says this, but you can't edit a blank page. Edit. So I mean, obviously edit, but you've got to write. But it's important to understand that there are sometimes it's not working. That's not to say trash the idea. There may be a time, 5 or 10 years later, you'll come back and you're like, oh my God, this is the key that makes that work. This is the piece that makes it fit together. So just because you don't have it at the offset doesn't mean that it's a failure or it's never going to work. Certainly save that work, but just recognize when it's time to maybe move on from something.
Can you take us back to the first character that, in a sense, started talking to you? It was like this real person that was like almost in your ear. What was that like?
So the first character that started to talk to me was for actually the first TV pilot that I wrote. When I got signed by my agents, I didn't have a TV sample. And they were like, well, we need a TV sample to send you out. So I wrote a pilot. And the lead in that show, I'd been mulling this idea for so long. I actually wrote it in about a week. And the lead character in that, like she had just been so real, that when I started to write her out, I mean, she's got a best friend and a daughter and this very complicated relationship with her job and her ex-husband. And she was just so real to me. And the character's name is Maggie. Whenever she would talk, it was just her voice, just coming out. And that in turn just formulated, her viewpoint of the world just formulated my decisions with the characters around her, and everyone in the story just came to life. And it's become my signature piece that my reps send out to get my generals in my meetings.
Took you a week to write it?
Yeah.
And how many pages is it?
This is 59 pages long.
Because it's a TV.
It's an hour TV pilot.